Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. In the intricate world of numismatics, certain coins emerge as treasures not merely for their age or metal content but for the stories they encapsulate. The 1968 D Roosevelt dime is one such coin, a piece that, while common in circulation, holds secrets that can transform its value dramatically. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a leader who guided the United States through the Great Depression and World War II. By 1968, the dime had transitioned from its original 90% silver composition to a clad composition of copper and nickel, a change that reflected the evolving economic landscape of the nation. The Denver Mint, indicated by the D mint mark, produced a substantial number of these dimes in 1968. Most of these coins serve their intended purpose in everyday transactions. However, anomalies in the minting process have given rise to rare variants that captivate collectors. One such rarity is the 1968 D Roosevelt dime struck on a 90% silver planchet, a throwback to the pre-1965 silver composition. This error likely occurred when a leftover silver planchet was mistakenly used, resulting in a coin that defies its era's standard. Such a coin, authenticated and graded, fetched a significant sum at auction, underscoring its rarity and the intrigue it holds for collectors. Another notable error involves the dime being struck on a planchet intended for a quarter. This mishap results in a coin with unusual dimensions and weight, distinguishing it from its standard counterparts. The uniqueness of such errors makes them highly sought after in the numismatic community. Additionally, the 1968 D dime has been found with double die errors, where the coin's design elements appear duplicated due to a misalignment during the minting process. These errors, while subtle, add a layer of complexity and value to the coin. The allure of these rare dimes lies not just in their monetary value but in the narratives they carry, stories of human error, historical transitions, and the meticulous art of coin production. For collectors, discovering such a coin is akin to unearthing a hidden chapter of history, a tangible link to the past. In conclusion, while the standard 1968 D Roosevelt dime may be a common fixture in pockets and piggy banks, certain variants with minting errors can command impressive sums, with some reaching values as high as $125,000. These coins serve as a testament to the fascinating interplay between history, art, and chance in the world of coin collecting. In the vast tapestry of American coinage, certain pieces stand out not just for their face value but for the stories they tell and the mysteries they hold. One such coin is the 1968 D Roosevelt dime, a small, unassuming piece of currency that, under specific circumstances, can be worth a substantial sum. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a leader who guided the United States through the Great Depression and World War II. His association with the March of Dimes campaign to combat polio made the dime an apt tribute. Designed by John R. Sinek, the dime features Roosevelt's profile on the obverse, with inscriptions including "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date. The reverse showcases a torch symbolizing liberty, flanked by olive and oak branches representing peace and strength, respectively. By 1968, the dime had transitioned from its original 90% silver composition to a clad composition of copper and nickel, a change initiated in 1965 due to rising silver prices. The Denver Mint, indicated by the D mint mark, produced a substantial number of these dimes in 1968, making them common in circulation. However, anomalies in the minting process have given rise to rare variants that captivate collectors. One such rarity is the 1968 D Roosevelt dime struck on a 90% silver planchet, a throwback to the pre-1965 silver composition. This error likely occurred when a leftover silver planchet was mistakenly used, resulting in a coin that defies its era's standard. Such a coin, authenticated and graded, fetched a significant sum at auction, underscoring its rarity and the intrigue it holds for collectors. Another notable error involves the dime being struck on a planchet intended for a quarter. This mishap results in a coin with unusual dimensions and weight, distinguishing it from its standard counterparts. The uniqueness of such errors makes them highly sought after in the numismatic community. Additionally, the 1968 D dime has been found with double die errors, where the coin's design elements appear duplicated due to a misalignment during the minting process. These errors, while subtle, add a layer of complexity and value to the coin. The allure of these rare dimes lies not just in their monetary value but in the narratives they carry, stories of human error, historical transitions, and the meticulous art of coin production. For collectors, discovering such a coin is akin to unearthing a hidden chapter of history, a tangible link to the past that in conclusion, while the standard 1968 D Roosevelt dime may be a common fixture in pockets and piggy banks, certain variants with minting errors can command impressive sums, with some reaching values as high as $125,000. These coins serve as a testament to the fascinating interplay between history, art, and chance in the world of coin collecting. The year 1968 was a pivotal moment in American history. The country was grappling with the Vietnam War, civil rights protests echoed across cities, and a generation was rising, questioning the values of the old order. Amidst this backdrop of transformation, a small coin was being minted by the millions, almost unnoticed, yet destined to become a legend in numismatic circles. The 1968 D Roosevelt dime, struck at the Denver Mint, was part of everyday life. It passed through grocery store counters, gas station tills, and jukeboxes. It jingled in the pockets of factory workers, students, homemakers, and soldiers on leave. It was just a dime, 10 cents, yet today, that same coin has become a hidden treasure for those who understand its secret. When the Coinage Act of 1965 came into effect, it marked a dramatic shift. Silver, once the core metal in America's dimes, quarters, and half dollars, was no longer economically viable. Rising silver prices pushed the U.S. Mint to adopt the copper-nickel-clad composition for coins. Yet, in the chaotic transition period, not everything went according to plan. Mistakes happened, and sometimes, those mistakes turned into miracles. In the case of the 1968 D Roosevelt dime, the miracle came in the form of a minting error, a rare occurrence where a leftover silver planchet, likely from earlier coinage, was fed into the presses meant for the new clad coinage. The result? A silver dime struck during a year when no such dimes were supposed to exist. Only a few of these wrong planchet dimes have ever been authenticated. But for the lucky few who've discovered them, tucked away in old change jars or inherited collections, they represent the kind of numismatic gold that collectors dream of. These dimes have fetched as much as $125,000 at auctions, with value driven by their rarity, historical significance, and pristine condition. Now, consider the double die errors, coins where a misalignment during die creation results in the duplication or blurring of text or design. These errors are subtle but astonishing. On some 1968 D dimes, you can spot a ghost-like doubling on the date or inscriptions. They often go unnoticed by the untrained eye. But to an experienced collector, they're gems. A sharp-eyed numismatist might find such a coin at a flea market, in a coin roll, or even at a bank, a modest investment potentially worth thousands. Even more astonishing are off-metal strikes. These are coins mistakenly struck on planchets meant for other denominations or foreign currencies. Imagine a dime struck on a nickel's blank, wrong size, wrong weight, and a glaring mistake by the mint. It sounds absurd, but such errors have been documented. When paired with a 1968 D mint mark, these anomalies gain even more prominence due to their timing, just a few years after the U.S. Mint's most chaotic compositional change in decades. Now let's turn to design. The Roosevelt dime's design hasn't changed much since its introduction. The obverse shows Roosevelt in sharp profile, facing left. It's an enduring tribute not only to the man but also to the legacy of his New Deal and wartime leadership. The reverse is elegant and symbolic, a torch flanked by olive and oak branches. Peace, liberty, and strength. In 1968, these ideals were more than design choices, they were reflections of a nation's struggle. Interestingly, that same year saw the reintroduction of the mint mark on dimes. For a few years after 1965, mint marks were omitted as the mint tried to prevent hoarding during the coin shortage. But in 1968, the D returned, bringing with it a new era of clarity and accountability. And thus, the 1968 D Roosevelt dime was born, seemingly ordinary, yet touched by extraordinary circumstances. For collectors today, the thrill is in the hunt. Coin roll hunters, estate sale shoppers, and online bidders alike search tirelessly for that perfect specimen, a flawless 1968 D dime with full bands detail on the torch, indicating a crisp strike and excellent preservation. Add in a mint error, and the value skyrockets. One coin, less than a gram of metal, potentially worth more than a luxury car, and therein lies the mystery and magic of numismatics. Coins are more than money. They're time capsules. They capture the technology, the artistry, and even the bureaucratic imperfections of their era. The 1968 D Roosevelt dime reminds us that great value can hide in plain sight, that history can sit quietly in a drawer, waiting to be discovered. So next time you see a dime, flip it over. Check the mint mark. Feel the ridges along the edge. It was 1970. America stood on the edge of monumental change. The counterculture revolution had grown into a nationwide shift, the Vietnam War rattled households, and an entire generation was questioning its identity. Amid the clash of ideals and cultural evolution, everyday life continued. Cars filled with gasoline for 36 cents a gallon, Elvis Presley made his final #1 hit, and 10 cents could still buy you a soda or a handful of candy. In this world of immense transformation, the U.S. Mint continued its steady, rhythmic duty of producing coins for the American people. And among the billions of coins minted that year, the Roosevelt dime, a modest, unassuming piece, would come to hold an unexpected story. A story of error. Of rarity. Of incredible value. A coin worth 10 cents, quietly capable of being worth $112,000. Let's begin at the beginning. The Roosevelt dime made its debut in 1946, the year after the passing of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It was no coincidence. FDR had been not only a revered president, but also a passionate advocate for the March of Dimes, a campaign that raised funds to fight polio, a disease he had battled personally. His leadership during the Great Depression and World War II left a lasting legacy, and the dime, already closely associated with his name due to the march, was selected as the canvas for national tribute. The design was created by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. The obverse features Roosevelt's left-facing portrait, accompanied by the words, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the minting year. The reverse was a powerful statement, centered by a torch of liberty, flanked by olive and oak branches, symbolizing peace and strength. It's a design that remains almost unchanged more than 75 years later. Fast forward to 1970. America had long left the silver standard behind for circulating coins. The Coinage Act of 1965 had eliminated 90% silver coinage for dimes and quarters, shifting instead to a copper core with a cladding of copper-nickel. The goal? To prevent hoarding and keep costs down as silver prices continued to rise. So by 1970, all dimes were supposed to be clad, not silver, yet, mistakes were inevitable. Minting billions of coins annually isn't easy. It's a process that relies on precise machinery, quick decisions, and intense oversight. But when silver planchets from a prior era somehow found their way into the minting process in Denver or Philadelphia, the result was an accidental rarity. A small handful of 1970 dimes were mistakenly struck on 90% silver planchets, ghosts of the past slipping into the modern age. And they are extraordinarily rare. Now let's be clear. Most 1970 dimes are common. They won't make you rich. You can find them in pocket change, in coin rolls, or in old jars passed down from grandparents. But there's more to this story. Some 1970 dimes were not only struck on the wrong metal, but also show errors that multiply their value, off-center strikes, double dies, and most notably, proof coins released into circulation accidentally. Proof coins, typically struck multiple times on polished planchets, were supposed to be reserved for collectors and never intended for general use. Yet, in 1970, some proof dimes escaped into circulation, especially from the San Francisco Mint. These coins, with mirror-like surfaces and sharply defined details, are significantly more valuable, especially in pristine, uncirculated condition. Then there's the crown jewel, the 1970 S-proof Roosevelt dime, missing the mint mark. You see, the San Francisco Mint was producing proof sets, and all of its coins were supposed to have an S mint mark. But a few dimes were struck without it. These no S proof dimes are now considered major numismatic rarities, known only to exist in extremely limited numbers. Some estimates suggest fewer than 100 survived. It's these coins, the 1970 S no S proof Roosevelt dimes, that collectors go wild for, graded in top condition by agencies like PCGS or NGC. These no S dimes have sold at public auction for tens of thousands of dollars. One example, graded PR68 Deep Cameo, sold for well over $30,000. Others, in more pristine conditions and under intense bidding wars, have pushed north of six figures. The $112,000 sale. That came from a combination of near-flawless condition, deep cameo contrast, and intense collector demand, because no one knows just how many still exist, but beyond the money, these dimes represent a different kind of value. They're windows into the inner workings of the minting process, a mistake that became legend. And for collectors, they symbolize the thrill of discovery. Imagine going through a dusty coin album from the 1970s, and realizing that a tiny silver disc, overlooked for decades, holds the key to an unexpected windfall. There are other ways these rare dimes come to light. Coin roll hunters, those who go through bank rolls searching for oddities, sometimes stumble upon odd weights or unusual tones. A clad dime weighs 2.27 grams. A silver dime, slightly lighter, at around 2.5 grams. And in hand, the luster is different. It's subtle. But with a scale, a loop, and some patience, collectors can spot potential treasures. The hunt isn't just for hobbyists. Dealers, auction houses, and professional graders all keep their eyes open for 1970 dimes with unique features. Whether it's a silver planchet error, a proof no S variety, or a deeply struck double die, each one tells a story. And each one proves that treasure doesn't always come in gold or jewels. Sometimes, it jingles in your pocket. So, if you're holding onto an old coin collection, or rolling coins for fun, keep an eye out. Check the date. Look for that elusive S. And if it's missing, if your dime is perfectly proof-struck, mirror shiny, flawless, but missing its mint mark, don't spend it, because you might be holding a coin that's not worth 10 cents, but one that's worth $112,000. Behind every coin is a journey, metal transformed by pressure, heat, and design into something that holds value. But sometimes, amid the perfection of machinery and routine, the unexpected happens. An anomaly. A variation. A mistake that slips through unnoticed and changes everything. The U.S. Mint, the process of making a dime in 1970 was mechanical, efficient, and exact. It began with long sheets of layered metal, a core of pure copper sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy. These strips were fed into machines that punched out blank discs known as planchets. These planchets would be washed, polished, and fed into presses where dies struck the image of Franklin D. Roosevelt on one side and the iconic torch, olive, and oak on the reverse. Each die could strike thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of coins before needing to be replaced. That's where the trouble begins. A worn die, slightly misaligned, or improperly prepared could create a double image, a doubling of the lettering or the date. This is known as a double die error. It's subtle to the casual observer, but for collectors, it's a jackpot. Now, think of how many dimes were made in 1970. Over 750 million. It's staggering. Yet in all that abundance, only a few exhibit these errors. Only a few carry the wrong planchet. Only a few lack their mint mark. This rarity is what drives the collector market. It's not just about the coin, but how close you can come to holding a numismatic miracle. Let's return to the minting floor for a moment. Somewhere in 1970, during proof coin production at the San Francisco Mint, a mint worker set up the press. The planchets were gleaming, mirror polished, specially prepared to become proof coins. The dies were clean, sharp, ready to strike with precision. But one thing was missing, the mint mark, the little S that signified San Francisco didn't make it onto the die. Now, this wasn't unprecedented. Mistakes like this had happened before. In 1968 and 1969, similar, no-S dimes had accidentally been struck. But 1970 was special. The coins were struck in limited quantities, and only a tiny number escaped into the collector's sets that made it out of the mint. Today, maybe 50 to 75 of them are known to exist. They're not just rare, they're artifacts of imperfection, chased by every serious collector. The market reflects this passion. One of these coins, in PR 69 Deep Cameo, sold for over $112,000 at auction. Why? Because of condition, rarity, and competition. These aren't just purchases, they're trophies. The appeal goes beyond proof coins. Consider the 1970 Roosevelt dimes that were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets. By 1970, no silver dimes were supposed to be made. The U.S. Mint had phased out silver content in circulation coins back in 1965. But the Denver Mint, busy, chaotic, and producing millions of coins, still had some silver blanks left over, likely from 1964 production runs. 1 or more of these blanks found its way into the presses. And when it came out, a perfect Roosevelt dime struck in silver during a clad era, it was indistinguishable at first glance from the rest. But collectors with scales noticed a discrepancy. The silver dimes weighed slightly less. The ring test, where a silver coin produces a higher, clearer sound when dropped, confirmed suspicions. And then the testing began. XRF machines, metallurgical analysis, authentication. The result? A 1970 Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet, rarity confirmed. Value increased. The demand exploded. There's something poetic